Hello, everyone, and welcome to Through the Bible. Today is episode 22, Exodus 5 through 8. If we remember back in chapter 4, Moses has heard from God. He's now going to tell the people of Israel that God is getting ready to set them free from their Egyptian enslavers. And they respond favorably. They believed God and they worshiped. But now that they have actually confronted Pharaoh and Pharaoh is making things hard on the people, now they begin to question, now they begin to place blame on Moses and Aaron. And they say, "May the Lord take note of you and judge, because you have made us reek to Pharaoh and his officials, putting a sword in their hand to kill us." And isn't that the way it is too often, that when God tells us He's going to do something for us and we're excited and we worship Him and we're thankful for it, but then when the process begins, it's not what we thought it was going to be. Maybe there's a difficult path ahead of us. Maybe there's some hurdles that need to be crossed, and all of a sudden we begin to question what God said. We begin to blame the people around us. And God is saying sometimes it's going to take a jump of faith, a leap of faith to get to where He's taking you, but to continue to remember and to believe His word for your life. Even Moses began to question God, and he went to them. He's feeling the pain of all of these people ganging up on him, probably remembering back to when his own people were upset with him after he had saved one of his fellow Hebrews from the Egyptian who was beating him. In Exodus 6, God responds and says, "Now you will see what I will do." So he saw the response of Pharaoh. Now he's about to see the response of God. If we're not careful, it's easy we might miss what God is doing. "I appeared to Abraham," he said, "Isaac, and Jacob, but I was not known to them by my name, the Lord." And the Lord there is actually the Hebrew word that we pronounce Yahweh. We're not really totally sure of the pronunciation because it was so sacred that it was never said. And so we're not sure of the vowels there. But Yahweh is often translated in the English Bibles as the Lord, again, out of reverence for the name of God. It's the personal name of God. It may mean He who makes that which has been made, or it could mean He brings into existence whatever exists, but we kind of see this idea that He is the beginning and the end of everything. And then we see that Jesus is, His name actually in Hebrew is Yeshua, and that is partially made of Yahweh, and it basically means Yahweh saves. So the name Yeshua, or Jesus as we transliterate it, means Yahweh saves. And His promise to them, "I will redeem you." And through Christ we see that God redeems us. God saves us. So then we begin the plagues that are going to begin over Egypt in Exodus 7. The Nile is turned to blood. Now this is significant, and the fish die. This is significant because remember, the Nile was where the babies were being thrown. The Hebrew baby boys were being thrown into the river Nile. And this was a direct attack against one of the Nile gods. We talked about those in the last session, but Osiris or Nu or Hapi, any of those gods would have been attacked. Maybe all three of them were attacked by God overtaking what was supposed to be in their purview, Yahweh taking over what should have been in the purview of the Egyptian gods and basically nullifying their effect on the land. And then we see the frogs come out. They're considered sacred. Heket was the god. She had a female body and a frog head, or sometimes she was displayed as a frog, and it was believed that out of her nostrils was the breath of life that animated human beings. And so again, this attack against her, the frogs were considered sacred. They weren't allowed to be killed. So here they are invading the land. The people can't do anything about them. They're everywhere they look. Moses gets Pharaoh to relent. He's going to get rid of the frogs. And instead of actually just going back to the Nile, all the frogs die. So now there's this extra stench upon the land. The people don't know what to do. These sacred objects are suddenly. And so the goddess, again, Heket, is just absolutely destroyed in many ways in the minds of the people who used to worship. And then 3, the gnats come with no warning this time. And it's interesting because 3, 6, and 9, those 3 plagues were at the end of a cycle. So we got the first cycle 1 through 3, the second cycle 4 through 6, the third cycle 7 through 9. All of those come without any warning to the people. Another way of translating that would have been mosquitoes. So we don't know if these were actually gnats or they were mosquitoes, but remember, the dust of the ground turned into these things, and perhaps that is the god Set, which was the god of the desert, and maybe an attack against the Egyptian priesthood because they prided themselves on their cleanliness, washing themselves several times a day, shaving, doing a lot of things that were uncommon for the people back then. And now all of a sudden they're just absolutely saturated by these gnats or these mosquitoes, whatever they happen to be. And this is the first time the magicians of Egypt are unable to duplicate it, and they actually say this comes from, and the word there is Elohim, or comes from God, and the word Elohim. And then we see that in 4, the flies come out, but not in Goshen. So now the first 3 plagues affected both Egypt and Goshen, where the Hebrews lived. This time, God is only going to afflict the Hebrews, and now Goshen is going to be a safe place. And there is something special. We don't have time to get into it today. There's something special about being in a place where God's protection is. We each have a Goshen that God promises us if we're living in Him and for Him. So the second cycle has now begun. Pharaoh begins to negotiate, but then hardens his heart. This was possibly an attack against Re, or Uichet, which were, Re, of course, was the sun god. Uichet, it depends on which kind of fly it was. We don't know. It's not defined to us. It could have been a biting fly, or it could have been a different kind of fly. And but either way, it was for certain God's way of showing His power over the gods of Egypt. So there we are for Exodus 5 through 8. We look forward to seeing you next time on Through the Bible.